Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a fabulous week. Mine has been great. Today's case is going to be a solved no body case, and it's on the story of April Jones. This was the largest search in UK police history, and this story involves a lot of sexual violence against children as well as physical violence. So if you can't handle that sort of thing, then I suggest you turn this video off. April Jones was an adorable, happy-go-lucky 5-year-old from Brynagog State, Wales. She had cerebral palsy, and because of this, she had a lot of issues with her leg, and her parents taught her to ride a bike at the young age of 3. April had 2 siblings. Both were older. She had a sister named Jasmine, who is 16, and a brother named Harley, who is 10. April went missing on October 1st, 2012, and she had a really normal day. She went to school all day, and then she went to her weekly swim lesson after school. April is seen here in her white school polo shirt, fresh from a swim. Her 16-year-old sister Jasmine is following closely behind. Around just 90 minutes later, April will be abducted. As soon as April got home, like most kids, she wanted to go out and play, but her dad insisted that she have something to eat first. April had brought a friend home, so he fixed spaghetti and toast and tea for them. They finished their snack quickly and begged to go out and play, but April's mom, Coral, was really hesitant about letting her go out to play. But April just kept insisting, and since April got really good marks at school that day, Coral finally gave in. When Coral asked Harley to go outside and get April from playing, he come in screaming, saying that she'd been taken, and April called 911 in a panic.
Police emergency.
My dog's been kidnapped. I live in the dog.
Able to stay still for me for a moment.
Oh, hang on. Val, can you speak to somebody? She's gone off in a car with somebody. Somebody picked her up in a car or something.
Okay, what's the name of the child that's gone missing?
April Jones.
They began to notify family members of April's abduction, and once the news of the abduction spread, people from all over came to join the locals to search. It was very dark and rainy outside, so people used torches as their guide.
They were knocking on doors, they were searching. You could see people with torches now. It's about 8 o'clock at night and it's just starting to go dark. And there was people with torches. You could see them going around checking the alleys, the garages.
As the word spread about the missing girl, the community rallied and began to search for April.
I think what we have to factor into this inquiry, and indeed modern day investigations, is the use of social media. It was evident very quickly following April's disappearance that that information was shared, and that obviously resulted in a number of members from within the community volunteering themselves, bringing themselves forward to assist with the search for April.
Just to update you, we're going to get everybody out searching in the next few minutes.
Dealiodd Mark turned out to go and help to look for April. We had friends from Aberystwyth, we had friends from further apart. I mean, everybody, even people we didn't know, they came.
People were just coming from everywhere, South Wales, North Wales. I was having messages from relatives all over the UK and stuff like that, asking, you know, is there anything they could do? There was a man, and he'd come all the way from Manchester that evening just to help find. He was like asking us, where do you want me to go? And we were like, well, if you stay with local people, at least, you know where you're going.
Residents began to mobilise. Some set up their own search parties. Others drove off into neighbouring hills to check forest trails and lanes.
It was a testimony to the locals and the people that come around. The amount they did in the time they had was just astounding.
Police began to question witnesses, and a 7-year-old girl that was riding bikes with April that day said that she got into a blue SUV looking happy, but she got into the right side of the blue SUV. And most cars in the UK have their steering columns on the right side, so this would have meant that the steering column was on the left side, and the locals only knew of one person to have a car like that. With help from the locals, police identified this prime suspect as Mark Bridger. Mark Bridger was a college dropout who had 6 children from 4 different relationships. He also had a string of offenses that started when he was 19 years old. He had possession of a firearm, theft, and domestic violence under his belt. Although he was regarded as a drinker with a violent temper, mostly directed towards women, he was never considered a risk to children or never charged as a sexual offender. In the days leading up to the murder, Mark's personal life had begun to unravel. His girlfriend had broke up with him via text message on September 31st, and he spent the whole next day looking at child pornography and drinking heavily. In less than 24 hours after the abduction, the authorities announced in fact that Mark Bridger was their suspect. He was seen on CCTV footage around the time of the abduction at April's home, and then he was seen at 8:30 p.m. by witnesses backing into his driveway. While authorities searched his home, he was seen walking his dog, not even looking up at the helicopters hovering above. When Mark Bridger was picked up by authorities, he said, "I think I know what this is about." He did admit to hitting April Jones with his car, but said that he tried to give her CPR but was unsuccessful. He said he absolutely did not sexually assault her. He was very adamant about that. He did admit to washing the blood off of his car, and he did admit to washing his clothes that he wore that night. But he said that he absolutely could not remember what he done with the body. While authorities did not believe his story, they did believe that April Jones was deceased, so they informed her family. A forensic expert found blood fragments and bone fragments matching April Jones' DNA in Mark Bridger's home. And while they also found skull fragments in a fireplace, they could not concur that those were April Jones' skull fragments. They just said they belonged to a juvenile of a kid approximately her age. Bridger had previously worked at a slaughter home, so that's how authorities believe that he knew to try and dispose of the body. His electronics, his computer, his cell phone were also taken from the home, and what they found on there was horrific. He had tons and tons of child pornography pictures on there under files marked clothes, under other things. And he also had pictures of April and her older sister Jasmine on there, as well as where he had tried to contact Jasmine on Facebook.
I got a friend request and said Mark Bridger in a profile picture. And I just messaged him like, who are you and why are you adding me? And he just kept saying, I know your family, I'm friends with your dad, I'm friends with your mum. I was like, you don't know me, so who are you?
And did you talk to your parents about that?
Yeah, I sat down in the living room one day with Dad and I was like, oh, who's Mark Bridger? And he was like, we do know him. You know enough to say hello to him in the street, but that's about it. He used to live kind of in the same block as us.
And he had also searched for naked 5-year-old, as well as previous young famous murders. Bridger stuck to his story of not knowing where April's body was, and on October 6th, he was charged with the murder and abduction of April Jones. At the end of April 2013, the searches for April's body were called off, and in May of 2013, Mark Bridger was found guilty for the murder as well as the abduction of April Jones, as well as perverting the course of justice for concealing or destroying the remains of April's body. While Mark Bridger is rotting away in his cell, April Jones' family still does not have full closure because they do not know where April's remains are. Her mother often says that she will forever regret that night letting her go out to play. But April's family is working on April's Law, which allows sexual offenders to stay on the registry for life instead of about 5 years, which is kind of how it is in the UK. It's a little bit different over there than it is in the United States. Here, I believe they stay on there for life. There, they stay on there for, I think it's 3 to 5 years.
So Mark, what does this mean then? What currently is the situation, and what would April's Law change if it came into?
So April's Law is 3 elements basically. It's one, it's to keep sex offenders, child sex offenders, on the register for life. Secondly, it's about talking to the authorities and particularly the social media and the internet providers to say you need to do more to stop child abuse material being available online. And of course that's because Bridger was not only looking at photographs of local girls, but he was going and seeking out child abuse material. And then the third element, which is in relation to sentencing and increasing the sentencing in respect to sex offenders. Right. So those 3 elements are broken down. Now some of those have been addressed by the government. So the government have, in relation to the last one about sentencing guidelines, they have increased them from minor sentencing now to, if you possess child abuse material, it's a minimum of 5-year sentence, and it's 10 years for distributing or making.
This is an incredibly sad story. I really hope that they can find April's remains and they do receive some type of closure. They do have a beautiful memorial garden for April. It is so gorgeous. One of the really sad things about this story is that April's dad actually acquired a brain infection and caused him to forget like the last 10 years of his life. And so his wife brought family photo albums into the hospital to help him jog his memory. And when she showed him a picture of April, he was like, well, why is my daughter not here? Where is she? She had to tell him all over again that April was gone. So they all had to relive that really sad moment in their lives, and that is just so heartbreaking. And also April's older sister, she almost drank herself to death because of the guilt that she felt for not being able to protect April. So I hope you guys enjoyed this case, and if there are any other cases that you would like for me to cover, feel free to drop them below, and please hit like and subscribe. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful week next week. I'm going to be working on some more cases for you guys, so look forward to that, and thank you so much. Bye.